Fresh tensions are once again rising in the Middle East as the United States and Iran exchange military strikes, despite ongoing attempts at peace negotiations. Notably, the latest escalation began after the United States of America claimed that Iran launched 4 one-way attack drones towards the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most strategically important maritime routes, and according to the US Central Command, or also CENTCOM, the drones posed an immediate threat to regional maritime traffic near the Strait of Hormuz. In response, American forces carried out strikes on Iranian coastal surveillance radar installations that is located in Gorak and on the Qasem Island in Iran's Hormozgan province. CENTCOM stated that the operation was aimed at preventing further attacks and defending U.S. interests in the region. The strikes are highly significant because both Gorak and Qasem Island are key military positions for Iran. Qasem Island, the largest island in the Persian Gulf, sits directly beside the Strait of Hormuz, that is the narrow waterway through which nearly one-fifth of the world's oil supply passes. Iran has reportedly stationed naval assets, anti-ship missile systems, drone infrastructure and radar facilities in the area in order to monitor and control maritime movement in the Gulf. And following the American strikes, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or also known as IRGC, claimed responsibility for missile attacks targeting what it described as enemy positions in the region. Iranian officials also said that missiles were fired towards US bases in Kuwait and Bahrain in retaliation for the strikes on Sirik and Qasem Island. However, the US military said that 6 missiles were intercepted while a 7th failed to reach its target. CENTCOM added that no American troops were harmed and dismissed Iranian claims that the US Fifth Fleet headquarters in Bahrain had been damaged. The situation has triggered alarm across Gulf nations. Kuwait confirmed that its air defense systems were responding to missile and drone threats, while Bahrain sounded emergency sirens and urged residents to seek shelter. Reports also emerged that Iranian forces had fired warning shots at 4 tankers attempting to cross the Strait of Hormuz without permission, raising fears of further disruption to the global oil supplies. And US President Donald Trump addressed the conflict during an event in Washington, saying that the situation with Iran was going quite well. Donald Trump claimed recent US operations had severely weakened Iran's military capabilities, saying Iran now possesses only around 21 to 22% of its original missile arsenal. However, intelligence reports reportedly suggested that Iran has already reactivated most of its missile sites near the Strait of Hormuz and still retains a large portion of its pre-war missile stockpile. Donald Trump also indicated that the United States remains open to a negotiated settlement with Iran, saying that he would even consider meeting Iran's supreme leader if a deal could be reached. And at the same time, he warned that the US was prepared to take a very tough approach if diplomacy failed. Meanwhile, Iran has maintained that it does not seek a new war but will respond forcefully to any attack. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi stated that Iran would take all the necessary measures in order to defend its sovereignty and national interest if pressured militarily. Mohsen Rezai, an advisor to Iran's supreme leader, warned that the United States would enter what he described as a dark corridor if fighting resumed. He also said a possible peace agreement would depend on Washington unfreezing $24 billion in Iranian assets. The military confrontation has complicated ongoing indirect negotiations between Washington and Tehran that is aimed at securing an interim agreement to halt the 3-month-long conflict. Iran reportedly wants sanctions relief, access to frozen oil revenues, and greater leverage over the Strait of Hormuz as part of any deal. However, repeated skirmishes and retaliatory attacks continue to undermine diplomatic efforts, and the conflict has already had major global consequences. As oil prices have surged sharply, shipping routes through the Strait of Hormuz have been heavily disrupted, and supply chains across several industries are under pressure. The United Nations World Food Programme has warned that rising fuel and transportation costs are pushing millions of people closer to hunger worldwide. And at the same time, the Donald Trump administration has imposed fresh sanctions targeting Iran's energy and banking sectors, and the US Treasury Department announced action against a network that is accused of selling hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Iranian liquefied petroleum gas across South and East Asia, while disguising it as Omani LPG. 12 entities and 6 ships, including several Panama-flagged tankers, were sanctioned as part of the crackdown. Elsewhere in the region, tensions remain high and Israel airstrikes have continued in southern Lebanon despite ceasefire discussions, while Lebanon's President Joseph accused Iran of using Lebanon as a bargaining chip in its broader conflict with the United States of America and Israel. And as both Washington and Tehran continue to exchange threats while publicly supporting diplomacy, fears are growing that even a small miscalculation could push the region into a much wider and more dangerous conflict. That's all for now. Stay tuned to the Savera for more updates. Do like, comment and subscribe to the channel.